I stood there, all four of my eyes blinking in sequence, watching the human walk into the arena like she owned the place. This was going to be good. This was going to be hilarious. This scrawny, soft-skinned creature thought she could compete at the Galactic Defense Summit, and I was absolutely here for it. My name is Krell, and I serve as a tactical officer in the Vraxian Imperial Guard. I have seen combat on 17 different worlds, trained with the best marksmen in 3 spiral arms, and never, not once, have I missed a target beyond 400 meters. So when the Galactic Council announced they were hosting a marksmanship competition at this year's summit, naturally I signed up. What I did not expect was the comedy show that came with it. The arena buzzed with energy. Thousands of species packed into the observation decks. To my left stood Commander Thoros, a Kragonite whose species had evolved with crystalline eyes that could calculate trajectory faster than most computers. His exoskeleton gleamed under the lights, and he kept flexing his 6 arms like he was already practicing his victory speech. To my right, Lieutenant Vesa coiled her serpentine body, her heat-sensing pits allowing her to track targets in complete darkness. She had won this competition 3 years running. Then there were the Quellen twins, both of them hovering 2 feet off the ground, their telepathic link allowing them to coordinate shots with terrifying precision. Behind them, a Draxon warrior stood 9 feet tall, his 4 eyes capable of independent movement, giving him a 360-degree field of vision. Every single competitor here had evolved or engineered themselves for this exact purpose. We were weapons, honed by millions of years, or centuries of genetic manipulation. And then there was the human. She walked in wearing a simple gray uniform, no armor, no enhancements visible to my scans. Her name tag read Lieutenant Maya Cross, Terran Defense Force. She stood maybe 5.5 feet tall, had only 2 eyes positioned in the front of her head, giving her horrible peripheral vision, and her skin looked like it would tear if you sneezed on it too hard. Humans were famous throughout the galaxy for exactly 2 things, being annoyingly persistent and dying in really stupid ways. They had no natural weapons, no armor plating, no venom, no telepathy. They were the galactic equivalent of showing up to a knife fight with a stern expression and misplaced confidence. I watched her scan the room, and when her eyes met mine, she had the audacity to smile. Oh, this was definitely going to be entertaining. The competition master, a floating ethereal named Quinn, announced the first round with a voice that echoed through every translator in the arena. Standard target practice. 200 meters, 10 shots. Moving targets. Child's play real. I cracked my neck, all 3 joints popping in satisfaction. Commander Thoros went first. His crystalline eyes flashed, calculating wind resistance, gravity variance, target velocity, and about 16 other factors I could not even pronounce. He raised his plasma rifle and 10 shots rang out in perfect rhythm. 10 targets exploded into vapor. The crowd roared. Perfect score. Predictable. Lieutenant Vesa slithered up next, her weapon a bio-integrated railgun that grew directly from her arm. She did not even seem to aim, just fired based on heat signatures alone, her shots curving through the air like they had minds of their own. 10 more targets disintegrated. Another perfect score. The Draconson warrior followed, using all 4 eyes independently to track multiple targets simultaneously, firing so fast it sounded like one continuous blast. Perfect score. The pattern continued. The Quellen twins achieved a perfect score while blindfolded, communicating through pure thought. A Zephrate used wind manipulation to guide her bullets around obstacles. A Thorian's genetically enhanced reflexes allowed him to fire between heartbeats. Perfect score after perfect score after perfect score. I stepped up to the line, feeling the weight of my service rifle in my primary hands. The weapon was an extension of my body, custom built for my physiology, integrated with my neural implants. I did not aim so much as think about where I wanted the shots to go. 10 targets appeared, weaving and bobbing at different speeds and distances. I fired. 10 clouds of metallic dust. The crowd cheered. I flexed my secondary arms and grinned with both mouths. Then it was the human's turn. Maya Cross walked to the firing line carrying what looked like a museum piece. A ballistic weapon. Actual chemical propellant. Mechanical trigger. Iron sights. No smart targeting. No neural link. No plasma or rail acceleration. Just metal tubes and springs and the kind of primitive engineering our ancestors abandoned thousands of years ago. The crowd fell silent, and then someone laughed. Then another. Within seconds the entire arena was howling. I could not help myself. I slithered up next to her, towering over her small frame, and let my mandibles click in what probably looked like a smile to her limited perception. "That is your weapon?" I asked, making sure my translator added just the right amount of condescension. "How quaint. Does it require manual loading as well, or have you at least mastered basic automation?" She looked up at me, and that smile grew wider. "Want to make this interesting?" she asked. Oh, I smirked then. I definitely smirked. "Show me what human skill looks like, Lieutenant. Please. I insist." Maya Cross did not flinch, did not tense, did not show even the slightest hint of anxiety that any reasonable being would display when surrounded by the galaxy's apex predators, all of whom were treating her like dinner entertainment. She simply turned to Quinn and said, "I will need some modifications to the course." The ethereal's form shimmered with what I assumed was curiosity. "What modifications?" "Double the distance. 400 meters, increase target speed by 50%. Add random wind bursts. And kill the lights." The entire arena went quiet. You could have heard a scale drop. Commander Thoras burst out laughing first, his crystalline body refracting light in a dazzling display of his amusement. "The human wants to make it harder. Oh, this is rich. This is absolutely magnificent." Vesa coiled tighter, her tongue flicking out in what passed for a grin among her species. "I will wager 50 credits she fails to hit a single target." 50? "I will wager 200 she does not even fire all 10 shots before giving up," the Draxan warrior rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. Bets started flying through the crowd. The odds were not in Maya's favor. Actually, the odds were not even in the same solar system as Maya's favor. I watched the betting pool grow, watched species from across the galaxy unite in their shared certainty that this human was about to humiliate herself spectacularly. Quinn processed her request, his form pulsing with confusion. "Lieutenant Cross, I must inform you that these conditions would be exceptionally difficult, even for our top competitors. Are you certain?" "Positive," she said, checking her weapon with practiced ease. She pulled the slide back, checked the chamber, tested the trigger pull. Primitive motions, mechanical actions that required actual physical manipulation rather than thought commands. I leaned in closer, genuinely baffled now. "Why would you make this harder for yourself? Is this some human death wish I have heard about? Do you need us to contact your next of kin?" She loaded her magazine, each bullet sliding into place with a soft click that seemed absurdly loud in the quiet arena. Then she looked at me again with those forward-facing eyes, and said something that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. "Because fair is boring, Krell. And I did not come here to be fair." Quinn configured the course to Maya's specifications. The lights dimmed until the arena was bathed in near darkness. I could still see perfectly fine with my multiple spectrums of vision, but I knew most species were struggling now. The targets appeared at 400 meters, moving 3 times faster than the standard course, weaving unpredictable patterns. Wind generators kicked in, creating random gusts that would throw off any ballistic projectile. This was not a test anymore. This was an execution setup designed to make someone fail. Maya stepped to the line, rolled her shoulders once, twice, and then went completely still. Not the stillness of someone frozen in fear. No, this was different. This was the stillness of a predator that had just spotted prey. Every muscle in her body seemed to relax simultaneously, her breathing slowed, and her eyes, those weak forward-facing eyes, locked onto the range with an intensity that made my primary spine tingle. She raised her weapon. No neural calibration, no computer assistance. Just meat and bone and primitive metal. The first target zipped across the range, barely visible in the darkness, buffeted by wind. Maya's weapon barked once, the sound harsh and chemical and wrong compared to our clean energy weapons. The target exploded. I blinked. All 4 eyes. Independently. That was luck. Had to be luck. The second target appeared, moving faster, crossing at an angle. She fired. It disintegrated. My mandibles stopped clicking. That was not luck. That was 2 lucky shots. Probability was still on the side of failure. Third target. Fourth target. Fifth target. Each one moving in impossible patterns. Each one barely visible. Each one kissed by random wind shear that should have made ballistic targeting a mathematical nightmare. She destroyed them all. By the 6th shot, the crowd had gone silent. By the 8th, I heard Commander Thoras's crystalline structure vibrating with confusion. By the 10th, when the final target exploded into component atoms, you could have heard my heartbeat, all 3 of them, pounding in disbelief. Perfect score, in darkness, at double range, with triple speed targets, using a weapon that belonged in a museum. Malfunction. I said immediately, my translator broadcasting to everyone. The targets were malfunctioning. They had to be. Or her weapon has hidden assistance technology. Scan her weapon. Scan it now. Quinn floated down, past several sensor arrays over Maya's rifle. The weapon is entirely mechanical, no electronic assistance, no smart systems, no AI guidance. It is exactly what it appears to be. Then the targets, I insisted, feeling my confidence cracking like cheap hull plating. The targets were moving slower than programmed. The wind generators failed. Something failed. This is not possible. Maya ejected her magazine, the spent casings clinking to the floor with sounds that seemed to mock every advanced weapon in the arena. She looked at me, and I swear on my ancestors' honor she actually winked. With one eye, closed it deliberately. Some kind of human gesture I did not understand, but definitely did not like. Want to go again? She asked. I can make it even harder if you want. Add some smoke. Maybe throw some objects across the firing line. Whatever makes you feel better about what just happened. The betting pool had gone dead silent. 200 credits sat unclaimed because Vesa had bet Maya would not hit a single target. She had hit all 10, in conditions that would have challenged our best artificial intelligences. I felt something unfamiliar crawling up my spine. Something I had not felt since my first combat deployment. Doubt? I was not about to let some soft-skinned biped make me look like a hatchling in front of the entire Galactic Defense Summit. My pride, my reputation, my entire species' honor was on the line now. I turned to Quinn with all four eyes blazed, set up the advanced combat scenario. Full difficulty. No safety limiters. Several species in the crowd gasped. The advanced combat scenario was designed for Special Forces operators with decades of experience and full cybernetic integration. It involved multiple target types, hostage scenarios, shoot-or-do-not-shoot decisions made in microseconds, targets appearing from cover, and environmental hazards that could actually injure the shooter if they were not careful. Quinn's form flickered with concern. Krell, that course has a 73% injury rate. For highly trained operatives. Are you certain? Do it, I hissed. Maya simply reloaded her weapon that same mechanical motion and nodded once. The arena transformed. Holographic buildings materialized, creating an urban combat zone. Targets would appear as enemies. Civilians, friendlies, all mixed together. Distance varied from 5 meters to 500. Some targets would shoot back with simulated weapons that delivered very real pain-compliance shocks. Wind, smoke, debris, chaos. This was war condensed into a training course. Begin, Quinn announced. Maya moved, and that is when I realized I had made a terrible mistake. She did not rush. She did not panic. She flowed through the course like water, finding cracks in stone. A target popped up behind a window, 300 meters out, barely visible through smoke. She fired while moving. The target dropped. 2 more appeared. 1 hostile, 1 civilian. She engaged the hostile, ignored the civilian, never broke stride. A target appeared at close range, simulating an ambush. Her weapon came up. She fired twice, center mass, and kept moving before the target finished falling. No hesitation, no second guessing. Her brain processed threat assessment faster than my neural implants could feed me data. She rounded a corner. 5 targets. 3 hostile, 2 friendly, all intermixed. She fired 3 times. 3 hostiles dropped. The friendlies remained untouched. How did she distinguish them that fast? I had 4 eyes and computer assistance, and I would have needed at least 2 full seconds to make those determinations. The course threw everything at her. Targets behind cover, requiring shots through narrow gaps. She threaded bullets through openings barely wider than the projectiles themselves. Targets at extreme range, partially obscure. She hit them anyway. Moving targets crossing at perpendicular angles. She led them perfectly, accounting for their speed, the wind, her own movement, all calculated in that small organic brain in real time. A hostage scenario appeared. Target holding a civilian hologram at gunpoint. Only a sliver of the hostile visible. She needed to hit a target area roughly 3 inches wide at 150 meters. While the target moved, while smoke obscured her vision, she took 1 breath, released half of it. Fire. The hostile dropped. The civilian remained unharmed. Commander Thoris's crystalline structure had stopped refracting light entirely. Vesa had gone completely rigid, her heat pits wide with disbelief. The Dracasan warrior had stopped flexing his muscles. The Quilling twins had broken their telepathic link just to stare with their own independent eyes. Maya finished the course in 4 minutes and 18 seconds. 27 targets, engaged. 27 hits. 0 civilian casualties. 0 friendly fire incidents. 0 missed shots. She took 1 pain-compliant shock when a target managed to tag her, and she did not even flinch. Just eliminated the threat and kept moving. When she walked back to the starting line, her breathing was elevated but controlled. A thin line of sweat ran down her temple. That was it. That was the only sign of exertion. I stared at her. We all stared at her. The human had just completed a course designed to challenge the absolute pinnacle of galactic military achievement, using primitive weapons, with organic computation, and made it look routine. "So," she said, checking her weapon again with those practiced hands, "do I pass, or do you want to make it actually difficult?" My mandibles would not stop trembling. I could not accept it. My brain, all 3 lobes of it, refused to process what I had witnessed. I activated my personal communicator and pulled up the Terran database, scrolling through human evolutionary history with increasing desperation. There had to be an explanation. There had to be something that made sense of this absolute insanity. And then I found it. Persistence hunting. I read the entry once, twice, 3 times. My translation software had to be malfunctioning because what I was reading could not possibly be correct. Humans evolved on a death world called Earth. That part I knew. What I did not know was how they hunted before they developed advanced tools. They did not have venom. They did not have claws. They did not have speed or strength or natural armor. So what did they do? They walked. They walked after their prey until the prey died of exhaustion. I read accounts of humans tracking animals for 8 hours, 10 hours, 26 hours in some cases. Just walking, not even running. Their prey would sprint away and humans would follow at a steady pace, tracking footprints, following scent trails with their primitive noses, reading broken branches and disturbed soil. The prey would rest, panting, thinking it had escaped. Then the human would appear on the horizon again. Still coming. Always coming. The prey would run again. The human would follow. Again, and again, and again, until the animal's heart exploded from stress and exhaustion, and the human, barely winded, would walk up and claim its meal. They hunted by being too stubborn to stop. But that was not the disturbing part. The disturbing part was what this did to their brains and bodies. Humans developed the ability to run while maintaining complex thought. Their brains learned to calculate trajectory while in motion. They developed shoulders, odd, flexible shoulders, unlike any other predator on their planet, specifically designed to throw objects accurately while running. They created a neural network dedicated entirely to hand-eye coordination that took up a terrifying amount of their brain mass. Throwing. They shaped their entire evolutionary path around throwing rocks at things. For millions of years, human survival depended on one thing. Can you hit that animal with a rock before it gets away? Can you hit that enemy tribesman with a spear before he hits you? Can you throw that stone at that fruit to knock it down? Their entire species became living targeting computers optimized for ballistic calculation. And then they invented tools. I scrolled through their history with growing horror. Spears, etlogals, bows, crossbows, firearms, rockets, railguns. Every single step of their technological progress focused on the same goal: throw things at other things more accurately and from farther away. They did not develop energy weapons like civilized species. No, they kept perfecting the art of hurling physical matter at high velocity because that was what their brains were designed to do. A human child, barely old enough to walk, could throw a ball with reasonable accuracy. Their infants practiced the skills that took other species decades of training to master. By the time a human reached military age, they had spent literally their entire lives training their innate targeting systems, often without even realizing it. Every game, every sport, every casual activity. Throwing, catching, hitting, tracking, moving objects. I looked up from my display to see Maya watching me with those forward-facing predator eyes. Those eyes that had no business being that effective. Those eyes that were designed to track prey across vast distances, to spot the tiny details that indicated where an animal had passed hours before, to focus with absolute intensity on a single target while the brain calculated range, wind, movement, and 1,000 other factors in milliseconds. Humans did not have cybernetic targeting systems because they did not need them. They were born with them, grown organically, refined by millions of years of evolution that said, if you cannot hit it, you do not eat. If you do not eat, you die. If you die, your genes. And every human alive was descended from the best throwers, the best trackers, the best persistence hunters their species had ever produced. Natural selection had been running a billions-year-long marksmanship competition, and Maya Cross was the result. "You understand now?" she said quietly. It was not a question. I nodded, all 4 eyes fixed on her. "Your entire species," I said slowly, my translator struggling to convey the mixture of awe and terror in my voice, "is built to hunt." She smiled then, and it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just taught a valuable lesson. "Now you are starting to get it. Pride is a funny thing. It makes you do stupid things, dangerous things, things that any rational being would recognize as catastrophically bad ideas. But I was Vraxian, and we do not back down, and I had just been made to look like a fool in front of the entire assembled galactic military leadership. So I did what any proud, stupid, desperate warrior would do. I created an impossible challenge. "Quinn," I said, my voice steady despite the 3 hearts hammering in my chest, "I want to set up a custom scenario. My design, my parameters." The ethereal shimmered with what might have been concern. "Krell, perhaps we should." Now, I spent 15 minutes programming the scenario. I used every dirty trick I had learned in 17 campaigns. I consulted with 3 other species about their homeworld conditions. I built something that was not just difficult, it was mathematically, physically, theoretically impossible for an organic being to complete without computer assistance. The arena transformed into a nightmare. 600-meter range, darkness so complete that even my enhanced vision struggled. Targets would appear for exactly half a second before disappearing. They would be small, roughly the size of a human fist. They would move erratically, changing direction mid-flight using anti-gravity repulsors. The wind would gust at random intervals up to 60 kilometers per hour. Smoke would pour across the range. Holographic decoys would appear, identical to real targets, and hitting a decoy would result in point deductions. There would be 10 targets. She would have exactly 10 rounds. No room for error. No second chance. Oh, and just to make it truly impossible, some targets would appear simultaneously in different locations, requiring her to engage multiple threats faster than any organic reaction time could manage. I explained the scenario to the crowd. Several species protested that this was beyond unreasonable. Commander Thoros called it unsporting. Vesa said it was designed to humiliate rather than test. The Quellon twins, communicating in rapid telepathic bursts, concluded it was impossible even for them. Maya listened to the entire explanation without expression. When I finished, she asked only one question. "Do I have to stay in one position or can I move?" I blinked. "You can move. Not that it will help." "Good," she said, and walked to the starting line. Quinn gave her one more chance to decline. She declined to decline. The course activated. What happened next will haunt me for the rest of my natural life. The first target appeared, 600 meters out, moving left to right, visible for half a second. Maya's weapon cracked. The target exploded, but she was already moving, running at an angle, her body low. The second target appeared where she had been standing 2 seconds ago. She fired while in motion, twisting her torso, and the target disintegrated. She was not trying to hit from a stable position. She was using movement to triangulate position, cutting angles, turning the 3-dimensional space into something her brain could process faster. 2 targets appeared simultaneously, 300 meters apart. Impossible. No organic being could engage both. She fired once, the recoil causing her to spin slightly, and she used that spin to acquire the second target, firing again before her first shot had even reached its destination. Both targets exploded within a quarter second of each other. The crowd was screaming now. Not cheering. Screaming. In confusion. In disbelief. In something approaching religious terror. Smoke poured across the range. She disappeared into it. A target appeared. Through the smoke I saw her weapon's muzzle flash. The target died. She had fired through complete visual obstruction, relying on memory of the course layout, calculating where the target would be based on the pattern of previous appearances. That was not skill. That was not training. That was something else. Something primal. Something that spoke to millions of years of predators learning to kill in any condition, any environment, any circumstance. 3 more targets appeared in rapid succession, each visible for less than half a second, each moving in different directions. She engaged them all. Her hands worked the weapon with mechanical precision, each motion economical, each breath timed, each shot placed with confidence that bordered on arrogance. The wind gusted, 60 kilometers per hour, directly crossing her line of fire. A target appeared, small and fast and nearly invisible. She paused for exactly 1 heartbeat. Calculating. Processing. Then she fired at a point 3 meters ahead of where the target was currently located. The bullet curved in the wind. The target flew into its path and both met in a small explosion of metal and light. 9 targets down. 1 remained. The final target appeared directly above her, dropping straight down, spinning, surrounded by 6 holographic decoys. She had 3 seconds before it hit the ground and the test ended. She tilted her head back, tracked the falling object, ignored the decoys entirely and fired straight up. The real target exploded 30 meters above her head. The decoys continued falling, passing through her position harmlessly. Then she ejected her magazine, caught it in midair with her offhand, and turned to face me. "Did I pass?" she asked. I could not speak. My translator could not find words in any of the 47 languages I knew. She had just done something impossible, and she had made it look easy. The arena erupted, not in applause, in chaos. Commander Thoros's crystalline structure was flickering through colors I had never seen before, his equivalent of a complete mental breakdown. Vasa had coiled herself into the tightest spiral possible, her heat pits sealed shut as if refusing to process what they had witnessed. The Drexen warrior was on his knees, all 9 feet of bioengineered muscle trembling. The Quellan twins were arguing with themselves telepathically so loudly that nearby species reported hearing psychic feedback. Species from across the galaxy were checking their sensors, convinced the equipment had malfunctioned. Others were accessing human databases, reading the same information I had, their faces or whatever approximated faces, shifting through expressions of dawning horror. A few had already left the arena entirely, muttering about updating threat assessments. The betting pool had collapsed. Literally. The financial system could not process the outcome because the odds had been calculated as statistically impossible. Several bookmakers were demanding review. Others were just staring at Maya Cross like she had grown a second head, which, given some of the species present, would have been less disturbing than what she had actually done. I walked toward her slowly, my legs unsteady. She was checking her weapon again, that same routine, as if she had not just redefined what the galactic military community thought possible. "How?" I asked. My translator made my voice sound hollow. "How did you do that?" She looked up at me and her expression softened slightly. "Honestly, you made it too complicated. You were thinking like someone with computer assistance, trying to create parameters that would overwhelm processing power. But I do not process like a computer. I do not calculate every variable. I just look at the target and know where to put the bullet. Millions of years of evolution handle the math. I just pull the trigger." "That is insane," I said. "Yes," she agreed. "It really is. Want to know the funny part? I was not sure I could handle a funny part. I'm not even the best shot in my unit," she continued. "I am maybe top 20%. Good, but not exceptional. You want to see exceptional? You should meet Sergeant Willis. Man can hit a target at 1,000 meters in a sandstorm while eating a sandwich. It is genuinely annoying." My primary and secondary brains both stuttered trying to process that statement. She was not exceptional by human standards. This performance, this impossible demonstration of skill, was what humans considered above average. Good, but not the best. What had we done? What had the galaxy done by dismissing humanity as weak, as primitive, as harmless? I thought about every battle report I had read involving human forces. How they kept fighting when any reasonable species would surrender. How they adapted to impossible situations. How they won battles they had no business winning. I had attributed it to luck, to primitive stubbornness, to the chaos of war favoring the foolish. I had been wrong. Catastrophically, dangerously wrong. Humans were not weak, they were specialized. Every single one of them carried millions of years of predator evolution in their genes, optimized for one purpose: hit the target or die trying. Their entire civilization was built on that foundation. Their military was staffed by individuals who had spent their entire lives, often without realizing it, training skills that other species needed cybernetics to replicate. And we had invited them into the galactic community thinking they needed our protection. I looked at Maya Cross, really looked at her, and saw her for what she was, not a weak creature playing its soldier. A apex predator showing mercy by not pulling the trigger. "Lieutenant Cross," I said formally on behalf of the Raxian Empire. "I apologize. We underestimated your species." She smiled. "Everyone does. Eventually they learn."